is... Welcome to the Smite Console League. Finch here, joined by Taco. I'm always happy to have you here with me, taking a look at some of the best in the console league action here today.
I'd hope so, actually, Finch, that you're okay with me being here.
Oh, yeah.
But on top of all that, we do have some very exciting console matches coming up for you guys today, and I'm actually rather excited to get involved with them because we all know this is all leading up to that world's premiere.
That's right. That's what kind of everyone's fighting towards right now, is trying to find a way to get their way to DreamHack, playing that Smite Console Championship that we're going to have towards the end of the year. And there's been some shakeups, a little bit in the console scene. On the NA side, that Astral team now, bit of a different look. We saw Inbound tweeting, that he was stepping away from them. Not quite sure yet where he's going to be going, but they have their own new look. That might open up the door. I mean, they beat Rival last time, one of the few that could do it. That might change the whole landscape.
It's got to be a definite eye keeper for Rival to at least make sure that they want to keep tabs. That's
sure.
Essentially
See
all you really want to do,
there, right?
especially in a team like Astral where they were already dominating in North America for Xbox. So I can imagine that the other teams are definitely looking to try and take them out.
Yeah, it really has changed the whole landscape of it again. Everyone trying to make their way to HRX, happening November 16th through 18th. You all can pick up your tickets right now at hi-rezexpo.com and make sure that you're there, not just for esports. There's a ton of stuff going on at this event. Paladins consoles, other games too. Make sure you're there.
And just in case you miss out on some of the activities throughout November 16th and 18th, you don't have to sweat it too hard because you can always catch up with everybody else at the after party.
Oh, that's right.
This is going to be taking place immediately after Worlds, and it's always a fantastic time.
It really is. I went to the after party last time. It was the first time there. I will say no regrets. Glad I went. I'd go again. And I will go again.
Well, sometimes people do actually walk away with a couple of regrets, but usually for other reasons. So,
yeah, you're glad you went. Maybe you regret some of the things you did there. It's all up to you. Go and you'll see. Yeah. See what you end up enjoying. But let's go take a look at what matches are coming up throughout the day. It should be a stack day. First, we'll take a look at Xbox. Cyclone and Retribution going to be the first match we look at. Armada Elevate. That's another good matchup. That's going to be happening on the NA Xbox side.
And keep in mind, it's not just Rival who's been looking very strong over in Europe as of late. I think that a lot of the competition is really starting to bring the skill gap within each other, and we can expect to see a really exciting match, in fact, between CycloneGG and Retribution.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, even Astral was able to win their set earlier on. That one happened off broadcast, so glad they were able to grab that victory, at least if you're an Astral fan. Let's go ahead and take a look at all the stuff we're going to be broadcasting, though, just sort of zooming out at the esports schedule again. We're doing the SCL all day today. Esports Weekly, if you're used to seeing that Mondays, that's on Tuesdays now. 10 a.m. Make sure you're there. Taco destroys everyone else with her picks. I destroy Tom and Aggro because it's very easy. It's just a good time.
Because it's very easy.
It is. It's free.
That is the most. I would expect that from you, Finch. But of course, as you guys can imagine, we've got plenty of Smite action all throughout the week. SGS on Wednesday as well. I'll pick it back up. And don't forget to tune in to the SML on Thursdays and Fridays prior to those SPL matchups, because you can get a lot of great player knowledge and insight from some of those matches.
That's right. Some of the ones that end up coming up to the big league, you want to make sure you catch them right at their beginning. And Sigma and Optimus Gang have a great rivalry going on in EU right now as well. So that's one more thing you want to make sure you keep your eye on. But we're in console here today, so we'll try and make sure we stay focused on that one. This first set here going to be Cyclone up against Retribution. Should be a big match.
A really big match, in fact, I would argue, because both of these teams just looking to work their way up a little bit in the standings. And I think as well, it's a great way to kind of gauge where the rest of Europe stands.
Right.
Also, because I think there is a certain level of play that a lot of teams tend to rise to whenever they're up against Rival, but it's not necessarily a momentum that they maintain when they're clashing head-to-head with each other. So I want to see the sparks fly here between Retribution and Cyclone.
Sometimes it's kind of nice when you play up against a team that's as clean as Rival and they're on the rail so much. Even if it's a tough matchup, it kind of can help clean your play up a little bit too. If both teams are kind of maybe not 100% sure what they want to be doing and the play drops a little bit, that can affect both teams. We'll see if maybe one of these teams can keep it clean and rise up above the other. But already, some very standard bans coming out. Ratatosk Scribe on console goes up a little bit than what we've seen in the SPO, though he is valued there as well. So no surprise to see him getting banned out.
And we can be 100% sure that Freya, Athena, Chernobog, those are some picks that hardly ever seem to really make it through. So many teams just understand how prevalent these god choices are right now in the current meta. And very oddly enough, in fact, we see Retribution going for the Terra first pick. And Terra, I say, is a little bit of an oddball pick here because it's not that Terra is awful by any means. It's just that it feels like a weird starting point for your first pick selection.
Right. I feel like Terra is one that probably wouldn't get taken away quite that quickly. We've seen Amaterasu rise up on the other hand, though, so maybe not too surprised to see her getting valued here. But Serqet's kind of the one that sticks out to me. Pele, obviously, certainly out there, too. There's some strong picks that, hadn't been grabbed up yet, but Retribution, they wanted their support into a strong position, and already they've got a ton of control, a ton of teamfight presence, ton of sustain.
And this might be part of the reason why we saw a Cyclone prioritize the Serqet so early on as well, is just because maybe they were anticipating a little bit of a self-sustainability composition to come through here for Retribution, and having the Baron Terra could cause some issues in terms of healing, so I would like to see just a little bit more anti-heal in terms of itemization from Cyclone, despite having the Serqet. That's only ever going to be a single target anti-heal for 100% guarantee. This could be an interesting time for Cyclone to maybe look at an Odin pick.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea at all, but they're going to prioritize the Rama, it looks like here. Certainly nothing wrong with that. One of the strongest hunters out there right now. He certainly has kind of risen up with his auto attack focus. But I'm worried about this solo jungle, man. If you're Cyclone, if it is Baron Ravana over there, which I imagine it is, that's a ton of control, especially if they're against like a single target. They're not going to have any problem bursting him down.
Yeah, I'd imagine that this is going to be Amaterasu for the support role as opposed to solo lane like we have been seeing. And on top of that, having a Raven is still a little ambiguous, although Baron makes it a bit easier for us to kind of fill in the blanks of Baron being in the solo lane role, so Cyclone wanting to respond to that. I'd like to see a really aggressive warrior pick, perhaps, out of CycloneGG. I think that they could even opt for a major if they know that it's going to be the Baron, but there's the aggressive warrior. The warrior pick that I wanted.
There's no more aggressive warrior, I don't think, is there? Yeah, there you go.
Just an aggressive warrior because you want to be able to bully the Baron out of the laning phase, essentially keeping him locked underneath that T1 tower so that he never really has any rotational capabilities, and that could have a little bit of an impact against Retribution if their jungler is having to spend a little bit more time defending that blue buff area with the jungle camps and the like, in comparison to maybe taking a look towards mid and duo from Cyclone, which could be a little bit more vulnerable.
I like this, though, the double hunter competition coming through from Retribution, but I thought we were going to get to talk about that. I thought, hey, let's talk about Neith, Hachiman. No. Aphrodite comes in last week for Cyclone, so it is indeed going to be the Amaterasu very likely in support role now, and is that enough at home to win your vote for Cyclone? Taco, talk to me about this Aphrodite. Where's the Achilles going now? I mean, I have questions. Aphrodite mid, I guess, now? Is that what this is?
I feel as though this could be an Aphrodite mid lane.
Oh, man.
I think it'd be a little bit too awkward to throw either the Amaterasu or the Achilles into mid lane, so I think it's just best as a whole for Cyclone if they put Afro into the mid lane. And in all honesty, I'm not as opposed to this as you might think, just simply because as long as the Aphrodite focuses on her positioning and is able to play it safe, essentially, and not get dove super heavily, then we can possibly see the Aphrodite just look in a safe form all the way up into the mid game where we start to see the team fights break out, and then that could pose some serious issues for Retribution trying to take down anybody who's linked to Eribiiax here.
Well, I hope so, but I mean, I gotta imagine if you don't want to get dived, Robin is a bad jungler to be against. His whole that thought switch is in a lot of trouble. Sprint has come out, has the movement speed helping out as well, but the blink from OverPoweredUSB is just too good. First blood for Retribution.
Great job as well from Retribution just to catch out Switch all by his lonesome. Looks like the Amma just had the full intentions of dropping a couple of wards here. Still has one in his inventory, in fact. Didn't even get a chance to finish placing them.
Yeah, that is unfortunate if you're on the side of Cyclone, man, to have that loss come out so early, especially because of what you were talking about, where you want Eribiiax to be under as little pressure as possible in that middle lane, to be able to just be safe on this Aphrodite, to get to the point where you can't kill her because she's healing too much. Now, USB has a bit of a lead already, and Robin already so good at diving anyway. I mean, that could make things even worse.
could make things an absolute nightmare, in fact, for Warnock over there. I mean, he's the Serqet, he's the opposing jungler, and yet his direct opposition already has that 400 gold bounty, which means that Overpowered has a chance to back a little bit sooner, get boots online just that much faster than Warnock, and that could also pose some serious issues for the Serqet simply because the rotational power then swings directly into OverPoweredUSB's favor.
See if he can make the most of it, as ChronicThe Bros is already using some of that early aggression that we talked about that could help him up against this Baron, who eventually will be more than capable of taking care of himself, but might need a little time to get there. We'll see if maybe NeiI and him want to try and look at the blue buff, but not with this rotation from USB sticking on that side. In fact, it's the purple buff on the opposite side of the map that's being looked at.
You know what else is interesting too? It's just a neat little fun fact, but Total Bad Boy and ChronicThe Bros actually twin brothers battling it out against each other, so it's a little bit more on the line here, I feel, Finch, in terms of bragging rights for their own household affairs.
That's a good point. Yeah, maybe more than just the standings could kind of be at stake here between these two teams. But we do have a brief pause coming out from our players and get everything sorted out.
I figured it out already. Chronic realized my brother's team is winning. Got to go and plug the internet from his side.
That's what's happening. So. Yeah, he's taking this opportunity to go, do a little bit of off-game antics there. But in all seriousness, this is a bit of a problem, I would say. This Ravana getting the early first blood to get things started up, right? I think that the big focal point is that Aphrodite in the middle lane on the opposite side. Is that going to be enough for them to try and slow this Aphrodite down?
Possibly, possibly not. It kind of all just depends on how this league continues to escalate for OverPoweredUSB. You got off the great start with the first blood, and that's fantastic and all, but there's not necessarily a hard guarantee that they're going to be able to maintain that sort of pressure throughout. That could have just been one particular instance of Switch getting picked off, but then Switch coming in the next time around with 2 or 3 more members from Cyclone, and then that could possibly shift if Overpowered keeps on trying to go.
Sounds like they could potentially have a bit of a problem there. We'll see how it ends up working. We got to get everything sorted out, though, with those players. Make sure we can get that game right back up for you. So give us just a brief moment. We'll be right back. Out there for being patient with us. We are back now, bringing you the Smite Console League. And again, I apologize. We had the delay, but we're right back into the action here. Retribution up against CycloneGG. And don't worry, you didn't miss anything. We kept it right here for you. Saw that first blood going the way of OverPoweredUSB earlier on, but since then, Taco, things have seemed to kind of normalize back out. Still a bit slow in this early game. No tremendous advantages, though it does look like the dual lanes for Cyclone are a bit out in front.
Which is a little bit surprising, considering Switch was the one who took that early spill, but in the end, I guess that doesn't really benefit Total Bad Boy or Lyzurrr. They weren't the actual ones who managed to secure those last hits, and a Hachiman Amaterasu has so much push power potential in those waves, especially once you start climbing up the ranks with those levels now, and in fact, Switch and Davey going a little bit more frisky here with this red buff invade, and they will be successful.
That's right. Only one small, it looks like, going the way of Dobson, but Total Bad Boy might want to make him pay the price, but can't catch up. So that means they have Oracle Vision already in their favor. Red buff successfully stripped away, and they can head back to lane without missing any farm. This now starts to hurt Dobson a little bit, and the dual lane for Retribution too. Total Bad Boy and Lyzurrr, they're doing a great job transitioning their pressure across the map.
Not to mention, Dobson losing that red buff should be pretty impactful, because that's a lot of the poke potential for Dobson lost in that red buff there. And Eribiiax knows it. That's why we see Eribiiax not really all that concerned, able to just push up past that halfway mark in the mid lane and still look to safely clear the creeps, because Dobson maybe not as confident in his 1v1 kill potential on the Neith now that he doesn't have that buff to his name.
I wonder if NeiI was able to see that, that buff is going to limit some of Dobson's potential. I wonder if NeiI saw that back coming out there from USB and was able to recognize they've got a moment where they don't have to worry about the jungler on the map. Right now, there's no one else really pushed up who would have to be concerned, so it's not a big deal, but a bit of information they might have grabbed is Eribiiax is able to hit level 5 first over Dobson. So far, the experience is now favoring this Aphrodite.
OverPoweredUSB has come back to join the party now, and Dobson still looking for a good Spirit Arrow. Will backflip the Cobra's Kiss, which might have just been the right timing. Otherwise, we could have possibly seen Dobson having to expend those purification beads.
That's right. Certainly could have been burned out. And remember, this is one of those things that's so powerful about Aphrodite. The sustain is huge. It's certainly something to note, but that back-off damage is nothing to scoff at, Taco, especially if you're sending in a Serqet to dive the backline and can get that extra big burst to help get them down to kill threshold.
That's actually the next point I wanted to address, Finch, but gotta hold that thought for a second here. Retribution's Lyzurrr and Total Bad Boy looking to get a little bit more aggressive onto Switch. And now with overpowered USB, this could be a primary opportunity here. Blink's good, but the Piranha Onslaught afterwards is not root inside of the tower. It means that Davey's going to be able to laugh his way all the way home to safety.
Wow, Davey and Switch somehow making it out of that one. USB goes with the Blink initiation instead of the Mystic Rush. I'm pretty sure he was level 5 for that one. Not sure how much difference it would have made. They were both relatively healthy, but in the end, it means not able to find much there. But maybe with USB still nearby, he can come help out with this purple buff, which Davey and Switch want to try and strip away.
The in-hands after the cripple shot aren't going to be good enough here for Davey and Switch. They will start pulling away the triple buff. I think they were just checking their corners to make sure that Overpowered wasn't still lingering around the area, not looking to come interfere, and the purple buff will go down to Switch and Davey. As a result, now they're looking towards these oracles, just trying to scoop up any and every little bit of farm here that's over in duo.
Yeah, this duo lane pressure is starting to be a bit of a problem for Retribution. Got to make sure they're normalizing out some of this farm that they're losing. As we head back over to the middle lane, Eribiiax going to meet USB and Dobson both there. But you want to talk a little bit, I suppose, about this Aphrodite and this Serqet and how they can work together.
Yes, like you were mentioning, the back-off damage is pretty potent, especially when you can send a Serqet in via ambush or blink. And the big wombo combo is just looking at that last breath back-off damage, because it's just all at once. It's such a sudden burst of damage that all it really takes is that one moment, and then the entire team fight can just shift into Cyclone's favoring. So what I kind of want to see as a result is for Retribution to just keep this Aphrodite under heavy crowd control. That's probably the best way to keep Eribiiax from being able to have as much of an impact as what Cyclone are aiming for.
Could potentially be a problem for them. They got to make sure they're watching out. As you head over to the solo lane, you were saying in picks and bans, you wanted ChronicThe Bros to pick an aggressive solo laner, trying to keep MeowNate down. He is a little bit out in front in terms of net worth and experience, but not really much at this point. Has there been enough aggression over here? Is it not time for it yet and it needs to come later? Is there anything more you want to see as this red buff might get invaded again?
Switch and Eribiiax now with that link between the two of them. That's going to prompt Total Bad Boy to try and back off here. But Davey already lost half his health. Lyzurrr still looking to go in, but it's overpowered USB who's got the real damage going.
He does go up into the air, but the snipe's coming back out for Lyzurrr. Good dash. Allows him to reposition and get away from the shots. But now it's Switch aggressing forward past the wall. Eribiiax needs help on the backside. Unravel nearly finds him, but Eribiiax lives, and now Switch is the furthest forward.
Kiss is off the mark, though, so Eribiiax not having that opportunity to heal up Davey could mean just dropping this move in general. Speaking of which, now MeowNate uses the Aegis underneath the tower, trying to suck ChronicThe Bros back in. We'll find it with the life of the party, and that's going to be that. MeowNate with the solo in the 1v2 exchange.
Aegis to immune. That Fatal Strike coming in was the big deal there. Even if he was in execute threshold, which I don't think he was, he wouldn't be able to get away from it. That's a huge play from MeowNate to respond. They didn't get the aggression on duo side. That's what spawned that fight in solo. But him being able to survive it on his own underneath the tower, that's so important.
Speaking of which, it might be even more disastrous here for Davey. The last auto is going to do it to seal the deal there. But Overpowered still needs to be careful here. About to get turned on. Dazzling Offense is good. There's the back-off damage we were talking about, Finch. And Switch will get credit for the last hit there, but starting to look like Eribiiax is already swinging away with that back-off.
And that is a problem. He's at 2 levels, about a level and a half out in front of Dobson. And even if they're losing some pressure over there in solo lane, if USP's finding some kills, if this Aphrodite can get to the point where she's swinging, then all that won't matter. Chronic was a little bit ahead. He can afford to take that spill in solo. And overpowered USB was already having kills, but he's behind Neil. This is still problems for Cyclone. Or for Retribution, rather.
It is important also to keep in mind that Chronic mostly going down to the damage of the T1 tower itself. And don't get me wrong, that was great execute by MeowNate to just perfectly time the Aegis to avoid the main brunt of the damage. And not only that, ChronicThe Bros still looking to harass overpowered USB in his own jungle. This could be dangerous though, Finch. MeowNate looking to wrap around.
Is not going to be able to wrap it up, but is going to be able to find that heal and some extra movement speed. But USB, not getting the better of this trade, is going to have to fall back. And that was in the 1v2 this time in Chronic's favor, sends the jungler running. But with his speed buff up, I think overpowered USB was okay running that direction anyway.
Speaking of which, Davey actually trying to take up this boxing 1v1 trade with Lyzurrr despite not having his own red buff. And here we see Warnock looking to try and take the red buff away, but after realizing Dobson and Total Bad Boy are looking to confirm it, think it's best for Cyclone to just back off.
And I think they might have had some word vision there too, and been for sure he was there, but Lyzurrr doesn't have that information, rides the horse, does Neil to bring him down, and that's enough. Last breath, finds it with the shots, but USB is going to answer back. ChronicThe bros again in trouble.
Pressure on both sides of the map is switched now, looking to flip on over onto OverPoweredUSB. He's on the run for now, but with Meownate's assistance, that great burst damage is going to be enough to prompt Switch to back on out of there. And Overpowered this time won't have to worry about that dazzling offense. Instead, he'll just be able to confirm the blue buff for Retribution.
And we'll drop that down. Meownate's certainly happy to pick that one up, but this duo lane pressure is still a problem. Davey working together this time with Neil, able to find Lyzurrr a little bit too far forward, and he used the beads trying to get away from it, but unfortunately he ended up still falling, so he might still be vulnerable. USB is doing a good job in this early game keeping them relevant, but they've got to watch out for this Serqet and Aphrodite.
I'll admit though, Finch, I don't think that Retribution have been playing this match nearly as aggressive as they should have been into the composition that Cyclone opted for. Retribution had so much pressure between this Ravana and Neith.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like they got any benefit really out of it. We've been seeing
those two are behind.
Retribution being invaded consistently by Cyclone. And they're the ones with the Aphrodite, yet they've been permitted to safe farm. They've been permitted to freely wander into Retribution's jungle with very to little, pretty much no to little response. And not only that, but the responses that they have had have clearly gone pretty heavily in their favor. I mean, just look at the kill count, 4-2. So they had the damage early on, but now with all the sustain that's going to be coming through from Eribiiax and Cyclone having their own burst damage, I just can't help but feel concerned.
Cobra's Kiss looks like it does land on a Dobson, but backflip keeps him right on out of there. Taco, I think part of the problem is, at least in duo lane, this Amaterasu has done a good job giving some pressure over to Cyclone that they probably shouldn't have, and the duo lane's going their way, but you're right, mid-jungle should be favoring Retribution as the red buff does get stripped away. Total Bad Boy wants to try and crash through, but Cobra's Kiss says no to that. Instead, the team will group up around Oracles, but Retribution want to be here for the fight.
Dobson, Total Bad Boy, and OverPoweredUSB are all local now, but Cyclone Switch, who's actually going to be going in first, dashes right on top of Dobson, I think just trying to force a backflip out of the Neith.
You got me there with Cyclone Switch. I don't know, I thought you were going to say Cyclone Spin as Switch goes in with Dazzling Offensive. Lyzurrr is already low. Neil won't be able to chase him down, but the scope might be able to. 1-2 shots land. The third one off the mark, and Lyzurrr will live. If we come to the back of the team fight, Total Bad Boy in some trouble, but gets away from the back off damage. Retribution still alive, but it's Cyclone who's healthy.
Cyclone are entirely too healthy, in fact, for Retribution, so now they've got to just stop and stare as Cyclone are just trying to bait him into this Gold Fury pit. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. ChronicThe bros with 3, in fact, getting zoned away, going to use that Fatal Strike to try and run away, but Life of the Party just sucks him right back in.
CycloneGG are able to grab the Gold Fury and make it 1-for-1. Chronic and OverPoweredUSB both go down. Meownate's finding a kill on the back end, but Cyclone will happily take that trade any day of the week. Gold Fury over to the Chaos side.
Talk about a sacrificial lamb there, for ChronicThe bros. He knew he was signed up for the slaughter there.
What more could he do? What?
He tried to Fatal Strike away. It's just the range of that Life of the Party, too much to handle. Great job by Meownate to help his team confirm the kill, but still, that was all ChronicThe bros intended to do in the first place, was keep everybody zoned away, all eyes on him.
And he's taken 3 spills this game, but is still quite relevant, I would say, in terms of Meownate in farm, in experience, and in gold. He's really not behind despite those kills, so he's taken them smartly. The one tower dive in the 2v1 against Meownate being the exception, I would say. But aside from that, Chronic has been doing his job for this team, and Cyclone can feel pretty good about where they are in this game, knowing that this Aphrodite has been under virtually 0 pressure.
Not only that, but I love the fact that Chronic even opted for this Cursed Ankh pickup.
Yeah.
It's the first start of many that I can imagine is going to be a lot of anti-heal prioritization here for Cyclone, because Retribution, they do have the Terra and the Baron. We haven't really had too many opportunities to really watch that sustain come to fruition, unlike Cyclone, but Aphrodite's is going to feel a little bit more impactful early on. I mean, her sole intention is to be a primary healer.
Right.
Meanwhile, Terra and Baron, it's kind of just supplemental factors that they have in their kits.
Eribiiax already doing a good job in terms of that heal right now at about 2,500. We'll see if he can certainly get those numbers looking even better, as he's got all the cooldown you can ask for at the max right now between Mage's Blessing, Chronos Pendant, and the boots. In fact, we've got a grouping as Neil takes him free poke early on. USB gets caught out. He's in Execute Threshold. Fatal Strike gets avoided with the jump over the top. A dazzling offensive should put an end to this one. Switch finds the first kill. Now MeowNate in some trouble.
Not to mention that Switch is able to immune that Neith World Weaver damage, and now he's got to worry even more so because Warnock's going in right onto Total Bad Boy. Dobson doesn't have anything to assist him with.
That means one more kill as Total Bad Boy falls. Lyzurrr is going to ride away on the horse, avoids the shots. The third one hits. Lyzurrr ends up getting quite low, but will be able to survive. Cyclone, now that they're grouping up, are winning these fights a lot more handily. This tier 1 tower's theirs, and NeiI once more forces Dobson into the air, but the root comes out. NeiI cannot continue the chase, but Dobson will get poked out.
And that's the only little bit of poke out they really needed to happen. Pyromancer could be looked at next. Everybody from Cyclone still relatively healthy here, and ChronicThe Bros has MeowNate in his sights. We know that Lyzurrr already had to back off thanks to Davey, so this is looking like another free objective Finch for Cyclone, and indeed it will be. Pyromancer goes down, and now that gold gap that didn't really seem like all that big of a deal at the start, starting to work its way up there.
Especially the experience. I'm with you with gold too, though. 3,000 gold, 7,000 experience. This lead is becoming a real problem if you're a Retribution fan out there. And it's two-pronged, right? It's that they didn't have enough pressure on Eribiiax, and in the places where they did have pressure, they didn't execute that enough either. ChronicThe Bros, even with a couple deaths, is still even with MeowNate. Switch and Davey were out in front of Total Bad Boy and Lyzurrr all game. Cyclone have had control in almost every lane.
I just can't help but feel like OverPoweredUSB should have just been forcing Eribiiax back, whether it was just to keep him zoned out of the waves in mid, that's one thing, and it's either here nor there, but I'm just surprised at how little pressure Retribution was actually able to get off, considering that they were the ones that got the first blood. And not only that, but it's just the burst damage between a Ravana and a Neith, it almost feels unmatchable at the start.
Yeah, if Dobson picks a target with that World Weaver and USB follows up on it, even if they expend beads or something like that, I mean, now he can land on them and get the root. It should be a strong combination, but Retribution weren't able to find it. They tried a couple times, but CycloneGG have done a good job of immuning it with Dazzling Offensive, with the Undying Love. They have a lot of tools at their disposal to get around it, too.
The other problem, too, for Retribution now, actually, speaking of which, MeowNate's going to have a couple of problems here between Eribiiax and Switch. Prana Onslaught also not going to bring in the numbers that OverPoweredUSB was hoping for in terms of damage. They will manage to force out Warnock's Mad Guy's Cloak proc, though. Great Spirit Arrow coming out of Dobson for that one.
Unfortunately, that fight doesn't go their way, but this is a good chance to talk about Heartseeker looking a little bit different now, Taco. If you could take a look at that for Dobson and his build, it is now available to a few more. It used to be in that sort of movement speed blade tree, but now it's something I imagine we'll be seeing our ability-based hunters picking up quite a bit.
And Neith is probably the only one actually hold that thought. Davey underneath a lot of duress here, gonna roll back into his team. In fact, going straight up into that Astral Barrage. Total Bad Boy still trying to cling on for dear life, but the Astral shots aren't gonna be enough, and Davey knows it, so instead he just goes right onto Eribiiax for the heals.
Well, MeowNate's the one that needs a little help, but he does get some sustain and make it back out. Eribiiax gonna keep Davey topped off. Look at the heal! Davey's basically back to full. He was in critical HP. Chronic now's the one that needs help on the right-hand side. Life of the party is pulling him over the wall, but it's too little too late. Now a relatively healthy Cyclone, and now fully healthy that they get to Chronic, can just start the Gold Fury. And 6,000's been tripled.
Just about everything's been expended. Still the Mystic Rush, though, for OverPoweredUSB. In fact, ChronicThe Bros here taking up all of this damage, no concerns whatsoever, and still sitting at, maybe a fraction of his HP was touched there out of Retribution. If that, they just don't have anything to really threaten Cyclone or force them out of the areas, and Cyclone are just completely abusing this Afro sustain right now.
And they should be. I mean, there's absolutely no way for Retribution in just now. I mean, Cyclone were fully healthy, still had a lot of their big tools available to them too. And they're doing the right thing. Now that they've hit this sort of mid-game stage where the laning phase is broken down a bit and they can start grouping up, Cyclone are just moving around like a death ball. Like, you can't kill us. Davey gets low. How about some heals for him? Chronic gets low. Some birds over there for you. Now they're going to force down a tier 1 in right.
And there's nothing Overpower can do about it. Instead, he tries to go straight onto Eribiiax. Lots been invested so far, and finally they're going to manage to bring down this Aphrodite. Now it could be trouble for ChronicThe Bros and Switch, as there's still the only two left trying to stay standing here.
This was a bit of an overreach now from CycloneGG. It was a 3v4. They didn't have Davey or NeiI there to help them out, and USB just commits everything onto the Aphrodite. Has the Brawler's Beat Stick completed now as well, then anti-heal certainly being relevant, and they're going to force down a tier 1 tower of their own.
It was the first time that Overpower could actually get within a reasonable range to apply that Brawler's Beat Stick proc, and I think that's another thing Retribution have really been struggling with, is finding a way to harass Eribiiax on the backline. But finally, Cyclone kind of just hands it to them, overextending just a little bit there with only the 3 of them to try and take out that T1 in solo. So a great punish by Retribution. And in fact, I want to go back to address that Heartseeker question you were asking me about, Finch, because, well, actually, never mind.
No, you don't. As it turns out, Lyzurrr is going to run away from NeiI Warnock on the bottom end, so nearly had a chance to go over it. USB wants to try and track down Davey. Blink slows there too, forces out the Aegis, still has roll available. An overhead kick will allow USB to regroup.
As soon as they realize that Neil was still in the area, it's just best to back off, and it's not like their buffs are going to be any further danger as far as invades are concerned, thanks to Cyclone being forced back. So this is where we were kind of waiting for Overpowered to start having a little bit more of an impact, and while he's making sure that it's happening, I just can't help but wish that this would have started sooner, Finch.
Yeah, that would have been nice for Retribution if, if Eribiiax wasn't, one of the highest levels in the game. Look at Davey, though. That's a problem. These Hunters have been farming very, very efficiently so far as well. Level 18, highest experience in the game.
Yeah, Hunters and Heartseeker, in fact, but I'm almost scared to adjust this one.
Right, as soon as you do.
Before the action takes back up again. I mean, I could see Meownate and the entirety of Retribution actually looking to head on over for this rotation. They want to contest the Pyromancer, but it's not looking too good with Lyzurrr on the opposite end of the map. This could possibly end up as a 5v4 engage, and in fact, OverPoweredUSB just going to prioritize clearing out the creep waves, instead understanding without their Hunter, they're probably going to come out worse in this trade.
Chronic looking for a stun, can't find one there. It's Eribiiax who takes some poke, but now Total Bad Boy could be in trouble as he gets sent back towards the rest of the team. ChronicThe Bros finds the kill, 5v4 now in favor of Cyclone. In fact, 5v3, Lyzurr's not even here, as Switch does end up eating that World Weaver, but he's happy to tank it.
And ChronicThe Bros, in fact, going to just take over for his teammate instead and look to play zone duty here against OverPoweredUSB, but Overpowered does have that Mystic Rush. In fact, ChronicThe Bros not going to let this T2 split push happen. He knows that it's a 4v3 and trusts his team to be able to hold him off. OverPoweredUSB, though, still not looking to give it up.
Retribution are the ones, though, who grab the Fire Giant. Life of the party pulls everybody back in. USB's in trouble. Neil is going to be able to put him down, but the Fire Giant has been stripped away by the Order side this time, Taco.
And Neil wants to give chase, but Eribiiax just a little bit too low in HP to want to make it happen. Instead, blink forward from Neil. Still trying to close the gap, though, but mounted archery is just too good here. And without that last breath, there's no chance of Neil being able to keep up.
Man, I feel like that all comes down to Lyzurrr. He keeps up that splish push on the left-hand side. ChronicThe Bros has to teleport over there to defend it. I don't know that he necessarily has to, but that's the choice they make. And without him there, they can't zone effectively.
That's the problem, though, for me, Finch, is there's zero reason for ChronicThe Bros to rotate to defend the T2 tower. You can get even more T2 towers. You can have the last 2, in fact, from Retribution, and possibly even their Phoenixes if you get a Fire Giant with the kind of pressure that Cyclone had on the map. To unnecessarily expend the teleportation just to stop split push for a moment, it just wasn't really worth the exchange.
And that's what's so important about getting more and more experienced as a team, right? Is because Lyzurr's job there is sort of to pose that question to them. How are they going to respond to that? If they don't, I'll just take it for free. CycloneGG, that's one of those questions where the best answer is to leave it blank. Where you just don't respond to it all and make your own move. Unfortunately, Cyclone were able to make that choice. They end up losing that tower. Now Fire Giant on Retribution, they can fight into this.
You back for the Phoenix. Yeah. I don't think you ever back for a tower when Fire Giant is on the board, but that's all in the past now, and CycloneGG, they've just got to take the necessary steps to try and move forward after the fact, and, well, this grouping could start. It starts with the Gold Fury, I think, of really being able to swing this one right back into CycloneGG's favor. It is still really early on here, Finch, only approaching the 24-minute mark, in fact, and neither side really feeling all that comfortable with starting things up again.
That's right. Cyclone does still have a nice golden experience lead, but all the carries have Fire Giant buff on Retribution side. The experience gap is not nearly as large as it once was. This isn't as free for Cyclone as it once was, as Gold Fury does end up getting leashed. ChronicThe Bros takes quite a bit of poke, but Eribiiax right there for the heal. Neil has to watch out for OverPoweredUSB on the right-hand side, and Cyclone regroup.
More importantly, we see Dobson also having picked up a Brawlers now, and that's going to be a much easier application of that anti-heal proc that CycloneGG might feel a little bit better here as Switch goes right into the Dazzling Offense, looking to catch out NeiI.
It does force back 3 members, but Life of the Party is going to force an overcommit now from Switch. He is able to regroup, but Lyzurrr drops the horse offensively and forces CycloneGG back. It's Retribution who are the full health bars, and now they start pulling the Gold Fury and dare Cyclone to come in.
Every single ultimate has been expended on Retribution side of things, but now it's CycloneGG looking to re-aggress. NeiI already right into the thick of things. Last breath onto Lyzurrr, but it's going to be NeiI who actually ends up falling first.
He did a lot of work in the back end of that fight, though. Can they capitalize as the snipes find Lyzurrr? Davey can't miss as he finds him on the backside. Chronic is low, but he's got the heals from Eribiiax and is able to regroup. But Total Bad Boy wants a little bit more on the back end of this engagement. Overpowered USB can't find a target on the right-hand side either. They still got the Gold Fury here, but it's been leashed up to full HP.
Keep an eye out for ChronicThe Bros, though. He already went back to base, and
teleport.
Retribution might have just realized it, but they didn't know that he was coming on the backside. Now Total Bad Boy is just too far up out in front. Overpowered USB could very likely be next to fall here. Switch still giving chase.
The back off is enough damage to find a double kill now for Eribiiax. ChronicThe Bros with the teleport back into the fight has changed the complexion entirely. 2-man stun lands. Dobson can't handle the heat, took it out of the kitchen. Dazzling Offensive is going to chase him down. Life of the Party gets stopped immediately, and Dobson finds the heal and the movement speed to maybe retreat, but the whole time Davey's been burning this Gold Fury.
This peel from NeiI is exceptional, by the way. Had it not been for NeiI, Dobson's dead there every single day of the week. But because he still has his Baron right beside him, he's able to get on out of there. But I don't think that could have been any more of an investment from Retribution side of things. They spent everything to bring down only NeiI, and that's the problem, is that this is not a composition based around single target picks. This is a comp that you want to win the team fights overall, and they are just struggling still with this Aphrodite despite the anti-heal that they have online for them. And I can't help but wonder why there isn't a cursed Ankh on the side of Retribution.
It is a bit curious that they don't really have the tools to deal with this anti-heal effectively enough. They do have the double brawlers, and those are good, but they don't quite feel enough. But Taco, you highlighted it. NeiI's presence in that fight was huge. I know he died first, but he goes to the backside. Cobra's Kiss last breath brings everyone very low. And critically, Davey's able to find Lyzurrr with his ultimate to bring him down too. That makes sure they don't have to worry about that Hachiman in the fight any longer, keeps things even. There's 2 health bars for ChronicThe Bros, essentially, because he backs and comes back in. A great fight from Cycle.
Davey had to get the execution finished eventually. With how many times Lyzurr's escaped from him on just one hit, just one connection more from the Astral Barrage, and that would have done it. So Davey, not looking to have to worry about that one any longer, finally confirms it, just like Cyclone finished confirming the Pyromancer. Fire Giant has firstly respawned as well, and this time around, Cyclone hoping to not get it stolen.
Davey's got to be careful. No beads for another 30 seconds in this fight. Most relics coming up for Retribution. Aegis will still be on cooldown for their carries. It's going in right away. Is Switch and chunked is Lyzurrr. He has to run away on the horse. NeiI can't quite chase him down. In fact, has to ambush away. But Davey wants to try and take 2 with the snipes. Can't find him there. Life of the Party will skin one more. By the way, a ChronicThe Bros, but he can take it up all day long.
Everybody from Retribution is so shoved back underneath this T2 tower. Without Lyzurrr for a little bit longer, though, Retribution are just going to have to sit and wait and try to keep CycloneGG from finishing off this FG.
But they're going to try one more time, Taco, and why not? They've got all the sustain you could ever ask for with Eribiiax on this Aphrodite. NeiI is deathbaning through to get damage onto 2 members. Dobson has the World Weaver charged, but NeiI's able to get away from it, but not from NeiI's damage. But the Fire Giant gets secured either way. 2-man stun from ChronicThe Bros, but they're just trying to disengage, not look for the fight.
Not sure if this is the fight, though, that Eribiiax only wants to be moving up in fact, gonna have to expend that immunity on the ultimate in order to just stay alive a little bit longer.
But it gets him out of so much, Taco. Now it's an overcommit from Retribution. Davey finds Lyzurrr on the backhand side. Total Bad Boy now is low. Big heal comes out from NeiI, but not enough. Double for Davey as he knocks him down. Eribiiax wants the kiss, finds it. NeiI in trouble, gets up onto the coffin, but it's too little, too late.
NeiI just spinning in every which direction, not sure who he's gonna suck in with that Life of the Party, and in fact, the only thing he's gonna find is his own coffin as he heads right on back to the fountain with the rest of his team. Overpowered in USB, Dobson, they're the only 2 members left standing, but Dobson's only half health.
Dobson's got to be careful. He really can't afford to step up and contest this right side Phoenix for CycloneGG, earned after a hefty fight in the jungle. They clean up several members in the fight, grab the Fire Giant itself. There's a tier 2 tower in mid still, but this is all Cyclone all the time.
that just escalated so quickly in the jungle. As soon as the Fire Giant goes down, you'd expect that Cyclone would just be on the run. They had to give up the life of their jungler in order to keep all the members of Retribution distracted long enough to confirm that fire, and yet Neil's sacrifice was not in vain because the turnaround from Cyclone and Eribiiax, he used that Aphrodite ultimate so soon.
Yeah.
It was forced out of him, and still Retribution could not manage to find a good enough target secure.
It was really good from Eribiiax. They committed so heavily onto him, and not just ability-wise, but positioning-wise as well. They were willing to kind of come up through that choke point around the Fire Giant to try and take down Eribiiax, but Undying Love allowed him to reposition. Then Cyclone could turn around for the collapse without very many abilities up. Lyzurrr in some trouble, but Neil can't find Cobra's Kiss, so he should be A-okay. And now Cyclone are ready to push.
Might have been a really important pick had Lyzurrr actually ended up falling there to Warnock, but it'll live to see another day for now, as Cyclone seemed to have made this left side Phoenix their next target of focus, Finch, because they're all prepared, bringing the creep waves with them. As I love this, by the way, from CycloneGG, not just pressuring one side, but also pressuring the mid lane too with Neil.
And letting fire minions push down right. They've already done their work there, so they don't need a physical presence over there. Neil grabs that tier 2 to try and keep their focus split, but Retribution are all in on defending left lane. They've got no one going to the right. Now it's Dobson who's going to go defend, but he's got to be careful though. 1v1 with a Serqet could be trouble.
I almost feel like that's exactly what Warnock would want in the first place. We'll get one of those Cobra's Kisses to connect as Warnock ends up eating a little bit more than he bargained for, I feel. Doesn't have the heals out of Eribiiax just yet, but that's not going to stop Switch, as he's going to go right on in there with that dazzling offense.
He does get pulled into the coffin, but Switch is tanky enough to shrug it off like it's not a big deal. Neil's looking for Dobson on the right-hand side, forces out the backflip. USB is low as well. So is Chronic, but he's going to get healed up by Eribiiax without too much trouble. They turn their attention towards mid-Phoenix. That's 2 down, 1 more to go. Lyzurrr reinitiates. Chronic the Bros is low. They even commit. The World Weaver and Lyzurrr brings him down, but Neil makes him pay.
It won't come for free, however. In fact, OverPoweredUSB going to spread that poison everywhere. Neith's going to be the next one to have to worry about it, but Dobson will make sure to return the favor onto Neil as he takes an untimely spill. Neith, though, just a little bit too far out in front.
Davey can't find the shots there. In fact, he ends up falling to Dobson. A good fight so far for CycloneGG to at least find those kills, but Dobson's low in the back, and Switch can take him down on his own. Aegis keeps him alive for the moment, but the movement speed gonna catch him up. Back off enough damage. Eribiiax makes it a 2v2. Neith's too low to be out here right now. Fire minions coming in from every conceivable direction, and Lyzurrr is trying to take the fight, but it's too close. Switch, find him too.
Not to mention that now it's only Neith, and there's no possible way for this Baron to clear out all these creeps in time. It doesn't even need to be Switch or Eribiiax because all their focus is onto the Titan, and they're going to be able to bring this one down.
Total Bad Boy has come back up though and is going to try and zone them away, but the fire minions are swing, and Eribiiax and Switch don't have a ton of damage up against it, but they bring down the Titan. CycloneGG, 32 minutes, take game 1.
They're just entirely too tanky to be dealt with by Neith and Total Bad Boy.
Yes.
They needed some of their carry damage, but all 3 carries were dead at the time, and that's going to do it for CycloneGG, at least for the first match. That was a little bit of back and forth action, a little bit more back and forth than what we were expecting probably, Finch, considering how things started off.
Well, losing that Fire Giant hurt, I think, a little bit for CycloneGG. They got to work on their communication in moments like that, I think, a little bit more, and make sure they're acting clearly. But I mean, their early game was excellent. They very much responded to Retribution's aggression, made sure Eribiiax was comfortable, and now you got to vote for your MVP. I think probably Eribiiax who you vote for, right?
I think you'd have to give it to Eribiiax at this stage, simply because it was a great team effort out of Cyclone, but without those Aphrodite heals, none of that gets to happen, or at least 99% of it, because Eribiiax was keeping his team plenty healthy.
Yeah, he had like 27,000 healing, I think, before that last fight, so I'm sure it was something absurd afterwards, but a ton of healing coming out there from Eribiiax. I think you make the case for Switch, too. He's the one that got them that pressure in dual lane, even with the early spill. His dazzling offensives were nuts as well. Between Switch and Eribiiax, I think they were the ones really controlling those fights.
Yeah, Switch might have been bamboozled at the start, but definitely made sure to recover for it. And he didn't really cost his team anything either. He kind of just did it all on his own accord by getting that pressure off over there in duo. In fact, we did just get a confirmation on the healing as well. 33,000 for Eribiiax, and that is rather impressive.
So much healing. It's an absurd amount that came out there from that Aphrodite, and that's what we were talking about early, right? Is you have to pressure her early on, because once she gets online, she's one of the oldest carries we can talk about, right? Is Aphrodite, and she got to that point where there just wasn't a way to get through all that healing.
I guess it was just so odd because Eribiiax was out front and center as well. It's not like he was hidden away somewhere in solo lane where he could like try to be somewhat protected there, but he was in the mid lane, and there was a Ravana and a Neith on the enemy team, and yet Dobson and Overpowered just were not applying enough pressure onto this Aphrodite. And I know that there's the argument that, oh, well, what are they really meant to do if he's just sitting on his tower line? But the fact is, Eribiiax wasn't on his tower line.
Sure.
Most of the time, he was comfortably pushed up past the halfway mark. And it's not so much that he gets the free farm as much as it is you can still pressure somebody even if they're trying to stay passive underneath their tower. That's where you start freezing the waves to prevent Eribiiax from having those creeps automatically shoving his way.
Or pressuring their buff camps. Yeah, there's got to be some moves you can make, and unfortunately, that didn't come out here. It looks like Eribiiax was indeed selected as your MVP from Cyclone, and well earned. Yeah, that's what we're talking about with that back off. Yeah, it'll do stuff like that.